Heaton, how was your flight back from London?
Pretty good. It was pretty good. I got a lot of work done. Got a lot of reading done. I like that the leg back to the United States. I'm always able to get a lot of reading done, and it went from potentially horrible to good. In that directly behind me was probably a 1-year-old, and I don't fault children on screaming on planes. Like I actually they're too young. You can't explain to them that there's an air differential. It's sad. I feel for them. It's irritating, but I don't. The thing that bugged me was the couple was loudly playing video games, like loudly with explosion noises and shit. And I was like,
plane. Any noise that doesn't have headphones, you should legally be allowed to throw them off the plane.
And I was and like I can sense British anger. British anger's this very like tight-lipped, smoldering thing. And I'm looking around and like we're all kind of making eye contact. And then it was very clear to me like, oh, I'm the only one capable of saying anything to these people. The other folks will just sit there. So I was going to have to turn around and like have like a weird smile and be like, hi there, would you mind using headphones? But once the plane was in the air, they quit. They smartened up. They put on earphones. So it was fine. Just got a lot of reading done. Uneventful flight otherwise, but that's about the best you can ask for. There's very few, unless you get upgraded to first class, there's very few airline stories where you go, something unexpected happened that was great.
Yeah.
I think the timing of this conversation might be confusing for some people because we told them that this episode would be the three of us together in London. And now we're talking about the flight home.
Right. Yeah. So
we were going to.
We just dipped around in London. We didn't do anything. Sorry. It was just social time.
Yeah, we hung out for like 5 hours. It was really nice. I feel like I needed to just hang out with you guys for a while. So it was lovely.
And by the way, to the benefit of you, the listener, because as it turns out, something pretty remarkable happened in between here and then with Epstein stuff that we're going to get to, especially congressionally. So you were a bank error in your favor, friends, while you did miss an episode of us in a Hyatt in East London, you are going to gain an episode with a lot more content to it.
Well, and one of the reasons we didn't do the episode is we sat down after speaking to each other 48 hours earlier and went, we have no topics. So maybe we just chill and do an episode on Wednesday. And I have no regrets whatsoever. It was so good to see you guys.
It was very fun. It was very fun sitting around and BSing and it was a good hang, a good chat.
It was a good time, very spiritually nourishing for yours truly. As an extroverted Britannophile drunk, the last few days were just terrific for me. I was just kind of tippled and socially sated pretty much constantly. It was wonderful.
That's great.
Saw a face on Andrew Heaton on Thursday night, the first night that we were there. We are on a boat on the River Thames. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming out of the bathroom.
My favorite London river.
Yeah. And Heaton is going in and he has a face that I could only describe as a child seeing his presents on the first Christmas he can remember. Like just beaming, glowing, a smile ear to ear. And it was because he randomly got into a conversation about economics amongst all of these British and American socialites. And I'm like, this is the greatest gift I could have gotten for Andrew Heaton is his admittance into this drinking club of American and British socialites. I've seen few people in life that happy.
No, that was the best part of the evening that involved clothing. That was a fun evening. We drank on the Tower Bridge. So like if you see that iconic bridge of the Tower in London, there's a suspension thing above it. We were drinking on that. And then we went to a boat and we were on the Thames, right? So it was all it was very glamorous, I must say. And it was a lot of fun. And one of my favorite things to do in life in general is compliment blazers. I'm an equal opportunist, by the way. Lady blazers are good too. If I see a good blazer, I'll come up and talk to you, but it tends to be men. So there's a new guy I met there.
On behalf of all stoners, thank you.
Mm-hmm. There was a guy that I met at that conference who was just always really well dressed. He looked very sharp. So I went on the boat and I went, "Hey man, you look fantastic. The scarf, the cufflinks match the scarf. I'm very impressed." And within like I don't remember what the bridge was, but within 3 minutes, somehow he got into monetary policy and he's like, "You know what the problem is? The problem is the Fed." And I was like, oh boy, let's have a chat about this. And so really got into it. Also, he's American, he's black, and I hadn't anticipated that he would just be my friend Gene Epstein on this boat. And it was me talking to him about monetary policy, the Fed, the beast from Jekyll Island. And I was like, this is great. Where I love it when I'm on the back foot as the Milton Friedman guy who's like, oh no, you're way more Milton Friedman than me. That's a very healthy place for me to be when surrounded by British people.
It was a good time. A good time. And then Jen showed up, which was nice because it's been a minute since we were all in the same place.
Yeah, I got there Thursday night, but I wasn't invited to the fancy boat party. And so I used my fancy hotel room where I was by myself to take a bubble bath and watch the Victoria Beckham documentary and really enjoyed it. I had the opposite night of you guys. I was by myself for the first time in months and I really loved it. And then, so after I left you guys, I came back to Paris. And on Sunday night, you guys know I like to take really long walks. Joe and I took the best walk of my whole life. It was incredible. So it started with the tree so with the Champs-Elysees, they put lights on all the trees going all the way down. So from the Arc de Triomphe to basically the Louvre, they turn them all on, but they do this big to-do about it. So they shut down the street. And so all the pedestrians can go in the middle of it. And then they put the lights to music and they had a band with fireworks, it was a big deal. It was really fun. And then they just had music. So you could, when it was all over, you could just walk up and down the middle of the Champs-Elysees. And so that's what we did. Then as we kept walking, we just found a Christmas, they call it a Christmas market. This thing is a full-blown carnival. And I wasn't even considering going towards it because here in the States, they would always charge some kind of entry fee for one of these things. And then I noticed that people were coming in and out. So we went and checked it out. It was free. And they had Ferris wheel, they had fun houses, they had roller coaster. It was unbelievable how big this thing was. It was packed. And so we walked through that, got the best meal I've ever had. It was basically scalloped potatoes with a bunch of meat in it. It was delicious. I'm still thinking about it. I'll be thinking about it for years. And then we walked over to the Louvre, which was next door, and it was completely dead. There were no tourists there. So we walked the entire perimeter and we were looking at stuff through the windows. You can actually see a lot through the Louvre windows. And so we did that. And then
let me know if you want the password for the Wi-Fi.
I'm pretty sure it's Louvre.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were talking about just how big this building is. So I'm surprised that more people haven't figured out how to get in. Because if dumbasses like us are allowed to walk the perimeter completely unbothered, but we did that. And then all the way back in it, there's this courtyard. And there were musicians that were going one by one and just kind of playing music. So when we got there, there was a guy on a flute. But then there was this opera singer that just showed up and was singing at the Louvre. It was the most magical thing I've ever seen. She was unbelievable. And then we came home and it was just, most of that was not expected. It was just lovely and perfect. And yeah, I'll be riding high on that walk for a while. It was so good, you guys.
Listeners, we are not so different from you. And
exactly.
Your banal lives, if you think about it. In a way, we're just a manifestation of you abroad. That's it. It's not,
exactly.
Don't be jealous.
I know, we do sound like a bag of
your
douches
number one
right
voice for the American working class. We're not wrong. From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
I'm Andrew Heaton.
And from magical Gay Perry,
I'm Jennifer Briney.
We're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we're going to be talking about the Epstein discharge petition turned Epstein bill that passed both houses and will apparently be signed by the President of the United States, therefore becoming law, as well as the end of shrinkflation. Bet you haven't heard shrinkflation in a while. Well, we're still on the beat, and so is Panera bread, allegedly. And then, of course, your emails. Let's go ahead and get into things. The Epstein Files Transparency Act is improbably on its way to becoming law. Just since last week, the discharge petition crossed the 218 signature threshold. The bill was then guaranteed a floor vote, instantly stripping leadership of control. This triggered a scramble inside the House GOP. Speaker Mike Johnson, who had previously fought against the push, publicly shifted and announced he would bring it up for a floor vote rather than allow the petition process to officially embarrass leadership any more than it already had. Behind the scenes, Donald Trump became deeply involved, furious that several of his closest House allies had signed. He spent much of Thursday calling members directly, warning them that if they supported the discharge maneuver or voted for the bill, it could cost them his endorsement. And I know for a fact that this happened to people that are very staunch allies of Donald Trump. But despite the pressure campaign, the momentum did not break, which meant that both parties had effectively conceded the bill was moving forward. Democrats embraced the transparency push. Republicans accepted that blocking it was going to look like a cover-up. And then, one night over the weekend on Truth Social, Donald Trump joined the push to vote for it, saying that it was about time that all this information got out there and that they had nothing to hide.
Thank God, that tireless defender of getting to the bottom of the truth, Donald Trump, the paragon of talking straight and giving it to you, who's been in favor of this from the beginning. I'm glad to see he finally got his way and Congress finally came around to his position.
So the vote hits the floor on Tuesday. All but one congressman vote for it, and he has his own principled thing that's more about whether or not it's more about a precedent-setting thing than it is even him like
was it fucking Clay
being
Atkinson?
against it.
Was it Clay Atkinson?
It was Clay Higgins. The guy's a fucking idiot.
Okay. Yeah, he was on the island.
Yeah, Clay Higgins is, you can dismiss Clay Higgins.
Actually, hold on. What was his thing?
His thing was that there is a bad precedent being set if you are just releasing a lot of police file or investigation notes that will smear people beyond what the threshold of actual burden of proof would be. And that there should be more filters in place to do that. But of course, we are now way past the point of that. We are here for bloodletting, and the people in the crowd demands that a lion kills a Christian. Meanwhile, the thought was that this might face some kind of static in the Senate. The Senate was making a lot of noise about amending certain things in a lot of ways to deal with what Clay Higgins was bringing up. There was also a question of when they were going to vote on it. Would it happen after Thanksgiving? Would it happen before Christmas? Would they try to bury it in some other moment when we are all focused on something else? Nope. Grease lightning. It passes the House. It passes unanimously in the Senate, not but hours later. And so...
Wait, interestingly though, with the way it passed the Senate, it was Chuck Schumer that brought it up, not Thune. And they did unanimous consent of a relatively empty room. So I do think like the how that went down is interesting. And I would love to know the backstory on it. Like, did Thune know it was coming? Like, I don't understand.
Oh yeah. No.
Okay.
I think they
What do you know
it.
About that Senate vote? Because I
don't know much about the Senate vote specifically. I know enough to know that the Republicans want this fucking done. And for whatever is going to happen, and for it to just be over. Like the nobody in Congress wanted this fight at all. They were all left on the back foot because Trump, despite the fact that his head of the DOJ, Pam Bondi, is giving influencers Epstein files part 1 binders a few months into the administration, therefore drumming up the idea that like, all right, here it comes. And then boom, nothing to see here. Everybody move on. They lose the fight for the discharge petition. Marjorie Taylor Greene becomes an apostate. Jen, let me ask you this. What the fuck is going on?
Well, first, I think that if you're going to listen to me, you should know that I was wrong about this completely, because I was very frustrated with the reporting. It was lazy reporting that was basically making people think that if it passed the House, that the Epstein files were going to be released. It seemed like a lot of people that were informing people were skipping the Senate and the president has to sign it part. So I was going on social media being like, don't get too excited about this House vote because it doesn't do shit. I certainly was not expecting it to pass by unanimous consent in the Senate. That method is interesting because it doesn't put anyone, like when you say it passed unanimously, that is not accurate. It passed without a vote in the Senate, and there is a difference. So it passed without a vote in the Senate, and Trump kind of has no choice but to sign it. He can't just let it sit there because then it automatically becomes law. The pocket veto is basically like when you let a bill just sit for a long time, but that only works if the House and Senate are both in recess, and like they are not. So he either signs it or he doesn't sign it and becomes law anyway, and then he looks bad. So it's like, for optics reasons, he has to sign it. He has to sign it. So I'm shocked that any of this happened. And I want to feel the hope that people are having right now, because it was a lot of people calling their members of Congress. It was a lot of public outrage that made this happen. And I do think that we should take a beat and just be like, wow, communicating with Congress actually works. Now, if we did it with something more impactful, like our health insurance or stopping the war in Venezuela, I would love to see it. But the fact that the strategy worked, I think is nice. Here's the problem. Putting on my Debbie Downer hat again. There are credible reports that they have been editing these files for a while. And I don't trust the people currently in charge of the DOJ who have been Trump loyalists. At least the 1, 2, and 3 positions in the DOJ are all Trump loyalists. So when they release the files, I think that we'll see some heavy redactions. What I do know, though, is that a lot of these documents are digital documents, so they're not the only ones that have it. So I do think there'll be people that can say like, oh, you're missing this document, or I have the original of this document. Like, here you go. It's not illegal for me to like put it out anymore. So I think eventually you'll get there, but this isn't over because it's still in the DOJ's hands. It's still their documents. So I think we'll see some, but I would just be really surprised if Donald Trump would give the entire party permission to vote for this if he didn't know something behind the scenes that would protect his own ass. So I'm just kind of waiting for that shoe to drop.
Is
that too cynical?
I'll ask you the question. No, I mean, number one, I'm more cynical in that, yes, they have control of the documents, and I'm going to include the theys of the Obama administration, the first Trump administration, the Biden administration, everybody that's been involved in this. The reason why this is bipartisan is because there is a feeling that there is an overclass that is able to run roughshod and pull strings, and the underclass will never be able to touch them. That's the only reason why everybody supported this. And that is unlike what you were saying with like Venezuela or a progressive solution for healthcare. That is one party that supports that. This was both parties that were very excited about this, largely because it started on the right with liberals dismissing it as, oh, you're just conspiracy theories about a pedophile cabal. Like, please calm down. You're encouraging the Comet Pizza Man to bring a gun into a kid's pizza parlor if you push this kind of totally unsubstantiated stuff. And then, very dumbly, the Trump administration was like, nope, turns out nothing's in here. Now, I have no idea what's in the files in the way that nobody does. My guess is that there's probably just as much, if not on the whole, more with Democratic officials than there are Republican officials, just knowing Jeffrey Epstein's history of who he liked to socialize with and apparently feed questions to damage Donald Trump during a hearing with Stacey Plaskett, the Virgin Islands delegate, who still took money from him long after all the information was out there in the public airing. But I don't know. I don't know whether or not this is just like, did Donald Trump stop the Epstein files for the same reason why he supported Andrew Cuomo in the New York City mayoral race, which was also weird, which is literally just because he knows a lot of rich people in New York and he knows people that were probably going to be embarrassed by these files. Is he in the files? Is he not in the files at all? I don't know. Nobody knows. Well, he's in. He is in the files. Yes, you're right. And that's stupid to say that he is not in the files. He is in the files in that he was a rich guy with Jeffrey Epstein who both lived in Palm Beach and in the Upper West Side or the East Side. I forget that. Like, they moved in the same social circles for years. Now, Trump knows Ghislaine a lot more and longer than he knew Epstein, because Ghislaine Maxwell is the daughter of the publisher of the New York Daily News. And while Trump was on his ascendancy, becoming a media gadfly, knowing the people in media, including Ghislaine Maxwell's father, was a huge part of this. Now, what I don't know is whether or not any of this, HR 4405, which I hold in my hands right now, will be enough for anybody to be happy. Because I don't think that for many people, anything beyond Jeffrey Epstein being reanimated by Mossad technology and saying, "Yep, I got all of these people on a blackmail list on behest of Israel," and then burrowing down into the center of the earth, is going to make anybody happy. If you just find out that a bunch of bank financiers daggered a bunch of 13-year-old girls, I don't think that that's going to make anybody happy. I think what people want is either an international intrigue or famous people going down. And I don't know whether or not this is going to get either of those. I
think Team Blue wants this to take down Trump. I think that is their ultimate goal. And if it does anything less than that, then they're going to be unsatisfied. And I'm glad you printed out that bill, because I do want to point out one word in there that I think is going to be problematic, because I think it was last week, Donald Trump said, we're going to start an investigation into only the Democrats in the
Bill
Epstein
Clinton,
files.
Larry Summers, and
which
Reid
they're
Hoffman.
in there. So like the investigation, I do think will happen because Pam Bondi takes orders from the president in a way no other attorney general ever has, but she does that. And if there's an ongoing investigation, there is a clause in the bill that says that you can redact stuff, but says it has to be temporary. I think we have to remind ourselves that the Republican Party is willing to change the definition of a day to stop things from happening, because the Senate, they voted on some tariff things that would kill Trump's emergency orders. That's how he's doing these global tariffs. And the House decided to change the definition of a day so that even though there is orders that within this many days you need to vote on this in the House, they said, well, the day lasts until the end of the Congress. So these people are fucking shameless. And so when you have something in there that says that you can temporarily keep stuff from the public as long as there's an investigation, that could stretch out for quite a while, because we haven't defined temporarily by this many calendar days. So I'm just like, I'm already seeing loopholes that can be used by this administration. And I think Team Blue needs to prepare yourselves for that. I don't think you're just going to get everything with all the videos that people think are in there. And I think there's going to be stuff that's still hidden for quite a while.
Heaton.
My fellow Americans, we have a golden opportunity moving forward to pass needed legislation by tying it to conspiracy shit. So what I propose is the balance the budget by releasing all the Pizzagate Files Act of 2026. So what we used to do, everybody, what we used to do is an oh shit, we're all going to die omnibus bill that we'd pass at the last minute, and you had to do it or we're all going to die. And that's kind of how we got things done. Now, it turns out, if we can tether it to conspiracy theories, everybody votes on it. So this is a great way for us to just earmark shit we need to get done into it. So like, balanced budget Pizzagate, let's see here, reforming sugar subsidies / we release stuff on Roswell, moon landing, and
Farm Bill.
Interstate zoning. I don't know. I'll work on all of this, right? There's got to be some Michael Jackson shit we can dig up. There's things we can do here, gang. We have opportunities to get real things done. Now, in the meantime of what's going to happen with this, I don't think anything's going to happen. This is my prediction on what's going to happen. You're going to find another 3 or 4 Larry Summers type guys who go down. They're not going to go down for anything illegal, by the way, because they could have already been prosecuted. This has been sitting around in the Justice Department since the Obama administration. So there's not going to be something that is capable of getting them in legal trouble, but it's going to be stuff like Larry Summers. This is already out now. Larry Summers writing very nice emails to Epstein after he diddled somebody underage and stayed friends with him. And you're going to find some high profile people that were friendly with Epstein after they shouldn't have been friendly with him.
Larry Summers just step back from all public life, except for apparently finishing his semester at Harvard. And then this morning, step back from the board of OpenAI, which is a company that you'd probably like to be on the board of as they move toward what is likely going to be one of the largest IPOs of all time. That is behavior consistent with a man for whom believes that there is a gigantic shoe that is not only going to drop, it's going to destroy his entire world.
So you think Larry Summers probably did something that was illegal beyond merely being friendly with Epstein, beyond when it was okay to be friendly with Epstein?
He's behaving in a manner. Yeah, he is behaving in a manner that, look, if he texted with a guy and says, look, we all got crazy friends, right? Like, you know, just because I sent a nice word to him doesn't mean that I think what he did was right. Who among us has not followed Christ's teachings of looking to those who have sinned and offering them compassion and comfort? That's one side. Another side is I want to remove my face and name from all public register and just disappear into a hidey hole for where I'm going to try and survive the fallout.
Also, how old is Larry? He was what, Treasury Secretary under Clinton? So he's probably 80. Yeah, like I think you're going to see some 80-year-olds go down. I think you're going to find, like, wouldn't surprise me if you find shit on Stephen Hawking, where like turns out Stephen Hawking was doing something weird. Wouldn't surprise me. So you're going to find stuff like that. I don't think it's going to change anything. It's going to end up taking out people that maybe deserve it, but aren't. I don't think there's going to be sufficient legal stuff. I think it's going to be more of social opprobrium that's going to be applied to him. You might find information that a comedian did some stand-up on the island, just that, and they're probably going to publish all of his fucking awesome jokes about beaches, and now people can just steal it, and he's going to get in trouble, even though he's not going to get any credit for it. I don't think it's going to do anything to Trump. The reason that I say this is, one, I think that guy is some kind of quantum Teflon that stuff has a difficult time sticking to. But beyond that, I think if there were actual smoking guns for Trump, they would have been brought out during the Biden administration when they were in charge of the DOJ, or maybe the Obama administration back in 2016 when everybody was really freaking out. That would have been a pretty good time to release shit. So I don't think that's...
Haven't we seen enough smoking guns? That's the thing for me. Like, I've seen enough. I've seen enough. So it's like, what else can possibly come out?
Wait, enough with Epstein or enough just Donald Trump behavior? Disqualifying Trump behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what exactly else does this man need to do?
That's what I mean is I don't think there's going to be anything beyond grab him by the pussy level stuff that's going to come out about. It would not surprise me at all if he was chummier than we thought he was with Epstein, or he was chummier longer than we thought he was with Epstein. I don't think there's going to be anything that you can impeach him on or remove him on in it. Otherwise, it would have already come to light. And I also I don't think anything particularly juicy is going to come out of this. The reason I say that, now I've not read the bill, so I rely on my colleagues here to correct me on this, but my understanding is, one, they're releasing the unclassified information associated with this case. Key bit, unclassified. There's still classified information that they're not going to release. Within that unclassified information that they're releasing, they're going to make certain exceptions, materials that can be withheld or redacted if they contain personally identifiable victim information, child sex abuse material, or if releasing that information would jeopardize an ongoing investigation or prosecution, would also prohibit withholding documents on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. I think that the information that can be released has already largely been released. I think that there's going to be stuff that is by virtue of the due process that exists within the DOJ going to be in there. So they're going to release a big chunk of files that is unclassified material. The fact that it's the unclassified stuff that's being released, I think is going to be kind of like the JFK stuff from a year ago, where they released a bunch of shit that they hadn't previously released, but they've held on to the classified stuff. So I don't think it's going to make a huge difference.
So Michael Wolff, who I will admit is the worst source ever, but he was
a fabulous asshole.
Yeah, fabulous asshole, but who was clearly in communication with Jeffrey Epstein for a long time. He says what you'll get from the DOJ files are pictures and videos. That's what he thinks we're in for. Bring them on. I want to see them all, especially the bubble one. Let's go.
Wait, how does he know if he's aware of them? He presumably does not have access to them. Otherwise, he could release them.
Yeah, but he was talking to Epstein a lot.
Theoretically, Epstein would have told him what the police seized from him and what he was worried about.
Epstein, one of the things that Epstein would do routinely is exaggerate the level of closeness he had with powerful and wealthy people in order to increase his social capital. So the fact that he would tell a journalist, I've got a lot of shit on the president, doesn't surprise me. Again, if he had shit on the 100%. President, I think it would have come out during the Obama administration. Or if it shit on Trump, it would have come out during the Obama administration. So
or the Biden administration, when there was an organized, it's not like there was not a
during
empty
the 3 lawsuits
file.
against Trump.
How can we get Trump from a legal perspective, from getting his name off the ballot in Colorado, to E. Jean Carroll, to the documents case, to 2 cracks at the January 6th stuff? It's not like there was not a full court press to try to use every element of what they believed was prosecutable to Donald Trump, both on the private and the public side. I don't know. I tend that end. Sorry, go ahead.
But that would work if we're talking about stuff that's only illegal. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that one of the accusations that Donald Trump gave our former President Clinton a nice little blowy. Let's say it's true and it's on video.
That was in an email from Mark Epstein to his brother Jeffrey Epstein, asking if Putin had photos of Trump blowing Bubba.
And what if the DOJ has him? There's no crime there. But if that were to come out, that's fantastic.
So first of all, that would be amazing. I hope that is the new simulation that we're living in, one where Trump blew Bill Clinton. I doubt it, because that sounds to me like, I just had a phone call today with Meredith and Austin Bragg, who I do Reason stuff with, and they were joking about incriminating videos of me blowing Bill Clinton. So that's what that sounds like to me. That being said, though, if Trump truly wanted to make everybody's head explode, I would love this.
It sounds like he made bills.
If Trump were to come out and go, yeah, I'm bisexual, I blew Clinton one time, there's nothing wrong with being bisexual, nothing wrong with being gay, that would be the most amazing thing in the world. That would be amazing. I would love that. It would help knock back homophobia in our country. It would be incredible for the conservative movement if their cult leader went, yep, I like dick too. It'd be amazing. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it did happen, but it would be great.
But the point that I'm trying to make here is that there are things in there that could be incredibly embarrassing for a ton of people that wouldn't be released in some kind of criminal probe, because while icky might not be criminal, might be consenting adults doing things that we aren't expecting, pairings we're not expecting, photos where there's underage girls in the room but not necessarily doing anything, but just looks bad. So it's I understand the argument that Obama and Biden would have prosecuted if there was something in there, but there could be stuff in there that's not prosecutable, but still could end political careers.
You don't think they would have
leaked that, though? Yeah, I think they would have leaked that.
I'd like to think that those administrations were not as corrupt as far as the Trump administration is with the Justice Department. And I make that face as much as you want. The Justice Department under Trump is a whole different level of corrupt.
I'm not here to talk about the Trump. I'm just talking about the Biden administration, DOJ, and them letting Jack Smith kind of do whatever he wants.
I don't know if they would, because if there's pictures in there that are damaging to the Republicans, knowing some of the names that we're talking about here, we've talked about Bill Clinton, we've talked about Larry Summers, we're talking about people that Bill Gates has been associated, we're talking about people that give money to Democrats.
Reid Hoffman.
I could see why those administrations would be let's just let this one go and just leave it alone. So it's this whole idea that they absolutely, if there was something in there, they absolutely would have released it. I don't buy it, honestly.
I don't know. I think if you're in the DOJ in the year of our Lord 2021 and you see Trump coming down the pike and you view him as a literal existential threat to American democracy, and you can potentially stop it by leaking a photo of him with a 15-year-old girl and Epstein, I don't know that I would even call that corrupt. I could understand why that would happen, and if it didn't, it is evidence to me that it's not going to come out.
All of the stock that Jen's not buying, I'm buying. So just so everybody knows, I am buying all the stock that Jen is not buying.
But if you also have overwhelming evidence collected by the January 6th committee that he faked 7 election certifications in 7 states and did all of this really criminal shit, if the Justice Department wanted him taken down so badly, they would have filed the papers sooner and gotten that investigation going a whole lot faster, gotten that prosecution moving a whole lot faster. They didn't do that either. So it's,
no one is saying they're competent.
Well, exactly. But that's why, like, the idea that they absolutely would have politically done these things, like, I don't buy it, because they had a pretty open and shut case when it comes to those election certifications that they didn't do anything with. They slow walked it so much that he's president again. So I don't know. We might find some things in there.
I thought that was the strongest case against him, Jen, but the fact that they slow walked it told me that they didn't actually think it was going to hold up in court. That for whatever reason, they didn't think that the constitutional underpinnings or criminal evidentiary threshold was high enough for it to actually be applicable. That's my guess. Because I agree from like just a ideological, philosophical perspective of the president of the United States refusing to concede an election and then doing the Eastman memo song and dance on top. Like, I agree with you on all of that stuff. I think that if they'd had an open and closed case, they would have gone with it. And the fact that they didn't was because they didn't think it would stick.
That's not, I can't remember what book. Was it the book you gave me, Justin, where they talked about this? And
Debbie
they were
Does
basically
Dallas.
saying that Biden didn't like the look of him prosecuting his political enemy. So they wanted to make sure that everything was perfect. And it sounds like the slow walk was, just Democrats being fucking stupid is my perception of it. We'll never know.
It didn't stop them from filing 3 federal cases and 2 state cases, and then multiple different private cases that were brought. Some of which were sexual in nature. Some of which were sexual in nature with E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll did get to a decision. And that was
he was
another
guilty,
thing
and we still elected the motherfucker.
That was a weird case though. I don't know how much I don't think even people who paid attention to that, the problem with the E. Jean Carroll case is E. Jean Carroll is that E. Jean Carroll's still alive, and then she talks on television and you're like, oh, I don't know how much I trust this lady.
I know, but she's also backed up by so many other accusers.
I don't want to litigate the E. Jean Carroll case.
Yeah, let's not.
All I want to say, my only point is that I do think that there's ample evidence to say that democratically aligned interests who believed Donald Trump was an existential threat emptied the clip. Now, I do think that your point is fair to say, all right, but if this particular bomb also explodes Reid Hoffman and also explodes other people that are cutting gigantic checks currently, and maybe it's the reason why they're cutting gigantic checks, then maybe we don't want to do it. Where I personally, just as somebody who has followed the Epstein case for a very, very long time, Trump has always been a peripheral side of it because by all available lore, they were friends in an era more in New York, and then they became kind of bitter enemies as some of the allegations that were being made became more present in that community. Like, he was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago, according to people that are that were also there. They if you read those emails that were published by the House Oversight Committee, Epstein is feeding Stacey Plaskett information to embarrass Donald Trump in Congress. So it's like there's a question of whether or not they help or hurt him, but it didn't seem like they were the best of friends. Heaton.
All right, here's what I want. I want Trump to hold a press conference where he says 2 things. 1, yes, I blew Bill Clinton. 2, I killed Jeffrey Epstein. It was me, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It was not suicide. I did it. The man was a monster.
Promises made, promises
You're welcome.
kept.
You're welcome. I did it. He deserved to die. Something, presidential immunity.
You want me on that wall. Now, the thing that goes against everything I said, Jen, is the fact that he, by all accounts, is the one who hit the brakes on publishing any of this. And so, the likelihood that there is something in there, or there is enough mentions of his name, or there is something that he does not want out in the public square, that makes sense. The line from the White House now is that the only reason why he didn't want it out there was because he wanted the focus of his administration to be on the awesome wins that they had secured in Congress, and that this would have been a distraction. I don't buy that for a second.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he hit the brakes. People should be suspicious about it. And, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, This guy said that he thinks he can walk down the street in New York City and shoot someone and get away with it. That could also be a part of this too. He's gotten away with every crime he's ever committed. So maybe he's just that cocky at this point. He's like, they didn't get me on anything else. They have enough
now,
on this Epstein stuff. I've gotten away with that too.
The funniest version of events is that Donald Trump says, all right, look, we could release a bunch of these Epstein files. Pam gave the binders to a bunch of right-wing influencers, and all the mainstream media did was call them cranks and crackpots and how none of this shit is real. We got to 4D chess this. I am now the smartest man in the world, Donald John Trump. And I've figured out the 5D chess way that we can light the entire Democratic Party on fire, and they're going to be begging for me to light the match by the end of it. I'm just going to say you can't see them. There's nothing in the files. And then I'm going to let this pressure build and build and build. And they're going to be screaming and yelling, release the files, release the files. Please embarrass all of our mega donors and humiliate our entire lineage of former presidential people, especially as they're trying to tack back to the middle. And Bill Clinton is the scion of that. Like, by the end of it, they're going to be begging to do it. And now there's going to be an atom bomb set off within the Democratic Party. That would be the funniest version of events.
The people who think there's some kind of 4D chess going on with Donald Trump, you people are funny.
I think that is closer to the case, in my opinion, Jen. I do think there's not a lot of Trump is an exceptional counterpuncher, but that's part of the reason why this got so weird, I think, is that like you would think a big loud sex scandal that theoretically nobody disagreed on the right or the left previous to this, that the balance of evidence in the Epstein files would embarrass Democrats more than Republicans. That was not a controversial thought right up until Donald Trump said, don't release the files. That's a very new wrinkle in all of this.
I guess we're gonna.
But also, he didn't want to release the files.
He didn't. And we have to remember that back in July, Mike Johnson had the House go home to avoid taking a vote on this. So it's like, it wasn't just Trump. He had his minions in Congress doing his bidding until he said on Truth Social a couple days ago, like, okay, you're free to do whatever you want. But for a while they were protecting him.
Well, and I know it was after he also threatened people that are very, very loyal to him that he would pull their endorsement. And he wanted to make Marjorie Taylor Greene the example of that.
He sure did.
Let's explore this for a minute. What is the worst probable thing that we could learn about Donald Trump through this? Because my thinking is it's possible that evidence will come out that he is not a great guy, that he is kind of scummy, and that he is not the kind of guy you'd want to be the godfather of your children. It's weird to think that, but it's possible. I don't think it's going to be anything enough to prosecute him on, which means that it could be ambiguous. And it could be a situation where he goes, yeah, I went to a party. I didn't do anything. There's no evidence. I didn't do anything at all. And just denies it. His base will believe him. And then the people who think he's a scumbag will have more reasons to think he's a scumbag. I just don't see it changing anything. But is there something I'm missing that could come out that is what he's suppressing? What do we think it is possible that he's suppressing that's going to come out?
Pictures or video.
Okay.
Pictures or video becomes iconography immediately. That becomes the Zapruder film. That becomes... it becomes, especially in this memified world, pictures or video that's huge. That might overshadow the rest of his presidency, and it might give new lens to what has happened before. Now, what that picture and video is, who knows? Is it closer to Joe Biden sniffing a little girl's head creepily and her parents looking aghast? Or is it something more horrifying? Is it something more nude? Is it Donald Trump's penis and butt? I don't know. Who knows?
I hope that's it. I hope Donald Trump's rotund posterior ends up in national media. That would be great.
I do think that it's fascinating. This gained, well, all right, this is my bright side, dark side. Bright side, America agreed. Look, I'm not saying it's the best time, but America did agree that this is something that the curiosity has lasted long enough. Any reasons why we should not see it are not sufficient for us. If you cannot explain them in a fuller detail than you have currently, we need to see what is going to happen. The dark side is, again, short of a memo on Mossad letterhead saying, honey trap the following American figures, a fellow Mossad agent Jeffrey Epstein. Ha 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 ha. They'll never see it coming. Young as possible. Exclamation point. L'chaim. Like, I don't think that that's going to make anybody happy. For some, I don't think that if, again, to Jen's point, if Donald Trump is not daggering a 12-year-old in 5K, that like nobody's on the left is going to be happy because it doesn't do enough damage to Donald Trump, which is the only reason why they give a shit about this at all, because they never gave a shit about it before. So like, I don't know if it's going to happen. And then the side element of this is that we just went through this whole question about Me Too, for example, right? That maybe there were elements of Me Too where a smear of impropriety that was too liberally doled out, and I don't mean that in the political sense, but rather in the sense that a lot of it happened, that might not have been great, that maybe these things were too hasty, and in our desire for justice, we might have socially impugned people on a pretty severe level. This, if Me Too was a knife, this is an AK-47. You are essentially, any name that's going to be in here is going to live with Epstein, confidant, Epstein, whatever comes out here, whether or not there's any proof that they did anything, they are just going to be linked to this for the rest of their lives now in greater detail than we ever have before, whether or not they were before. And like, are we going to be here in 10 years saying, maybe, the fact that he was friends with them, but there was no actual connection that he did anything wrong, maybe that was not the best idea? It wouldn't shock me.
I mean, details exonerate people too. So where you've had just like a passing mention before, maybe if we have the full details, then people are able to find out like, oh, it was just some kind of innocent business deal. Maybe they just met at some art gallery. Like you find out the actual details in these situations. One thing that I do think this could lead to is if we do see a lot of interesting bank records, and because Jeffrey Epstein's financing, how he got that rich and how he was able to throw that money around, like there's a lot of shadows there too, that I'm not sure our intelligence agencies are thrilled about us finding out about. So I actually think when we look at this 10 years from now, we could still be looking at the breadcrumbs that we find through these files in the financial sector. I think it'll be a quieter story, but I think it'll end up being the bigger one.
That's the other side of this. The other side of this is that the reason why we haven't seen any of this stuff has nothing to do with influence. It has nothing to do with class. It has nothing to do with even pedophilia beyond Jeffrey Epstein's personal predilection for young girls. It's because the CIA was using him as a financier for things that they didn't want on the books. And that this has always from the very beginning just been intelligence privilege, that they are saying, well, this can't be known because this, that, and the other. There are people out there that talk about, that he went from a certain position to another position because he was connected to people with Iran-Contra. Like there are things out there about his connection to money moving in the intelligence world. And maybe that's the reason that we haven't seen this stuff. It has nothing to do with the salacious element that makes us actually interested in it. It is just yet another example of how a private citizen is used to move money. Mm-hmm. Which would be less, but nobody would be satisfied by that, would they, Jen?
Well, no, because like I said, the only reason, the only reason that Democrats care is they wanted to bring down Trump. But if what we've seen already, if the indictments that are saying if you read some of the victim statements, victims that have been paid off and have disappeared, if you have read through those, you're already disgusted with Donald Trump as a human being. You already think that he is someone who
Epstein victims?
No, Trump victims.
Okay,
and
sorry.
it was
I just want to clear a delineation of, victims.
No, there's like some indictments that are really like graphic details about Trump forcing underage girls to give him oral sex and straight up raping them.
Wait,
like
what?
these. What do you mean? Wait, what?
What? I'm not familiar with this that you're talking about.
It was an indictment. I don't know the names are redacted. I can't tell you.
An indictment of Donald Trump raping young girls?
I don't know who the indictment was of. I just saw the page that like had the accusations of him. But like there's been accusations of him raping underage children for a while. So that's the thing, like I don't understand how this information is out there and it hasn't spread enough to where we haven't seen enough. So between the birthday card and the long-term friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, the proof that he's gone to that island a billion times, these documents that have been floating around forever.
Is there proof that he went to the island?
I don't think there's proof of that. Or at least there wasn't when it initially came out. Like now granted, I'm out of date on this, but when I was actually like reading through sources, there was an abundance of evidence that Trump and Epstein knew each other. There were phone logs, and there was at least multiple Trump phone numbers in Epstein's logs. I don't think there was any flight logs for him. There were flight logs for Bill Clinton, but there weren't any flight logs for Donald Trump.
Yeah, sorry, I got that detail wrong. But like I've seen enough from enough victims that are either related to Jeffrey Epstein or not, also Trump's own words, to know that he is as sleazy as it gets. Like I've seen enough, and I just don't know what else people need to see. I think if you are one of his cult members, there's nothing that's going to turn you. Or if you're one of the Republicans who is more afraid of him pulling the endorsement or whatever, like I still think, and we're creeping closer to it, there is going to come a day where all of the Republicans go, Donald Trump, who? I've never supported Donald Trump. Like he's a sleazebag. I'm done with him. I think he will be lame duck at some point, probably after they get their asses handed to them in the midterms, where the whole group of them is going to switch. I think they're going to throw him aside. It just hasn't happened yet. So it's, but until that time, and if you're not using him for power or you're not a member of the cult, there's nothing in these files that's going to change your mind. I'm convinced of that because I've seen enough and I don't know what else it's going to take.
Patreon.com/wherenotwrong is where you need to go if you want to support this show. You don't just do it for holiday charity, despite the fact that it is the season. No, you do it in an exchange for an exclusive episode. And holy shit, do we have a great one for you here today. Scandal that has ripped through the sporting community. FBI involvement, taking down a gambling ring in the National Basketball Association. Similarly, criminal charges filed where Major League Baseball pitchers were working with organized crime to make money. There's only one man who can dispassionately look at the world of sports and the world of gambling and save both. And so we are turning over the entire operation to Andrew Heaton, who will save both sports and gambling on sports in the Patreon episode. Are you prepared to do this, Heats?
I did not sleep last night. I did 6 bumps of cocaine, and I read so much about the basketball and the baseball and the gambling. And I have come up with a comprehensive federal framework, which I believe will not just save all of those sports, but the republic itself.
There we go. Patreon.com/wherenotwrong. That's where you need to go. Let's talk about shrinkflation, huh? Panera Bread is rolling back years of cost cutting after shrinking portions, lowering ingredient quality, and reducing staff drove customers away. Now the number 3 restaurant in fast casual behind Chipotle and Panda Express, the chain is launching a turnaround called Panera Rise. It includes restoring ingredient quality, like returning to full romaine salads and slicing tomatoes, increasing portion sizes, investing in labor, upgrading decades-old kiosks, and refreshing dining rooms. Panera will also test a barbell value menu with both low and high-priced options. Leadership hopes that this change will boost traffic and profitability as the company eyes a long-delayed IPO. Now, this reminded me of an old narrative back in 1994. So many of you might remember that the Biden administration sharpened its anti-shrinkflation strategy, pressuring food companies to stop quietly reducing product sizes while keeping prices high. This was a way for them to answer some of the inflation worries, the affordability concerns that were happening back then. Officials framed it as a consumer protection push aimed at grocery inflation. The White House highlighted specific brands, demanded transparency, and used the issue to argue that Biden had fought corporate price manipulation. Mr. Andrew Heaton, are we seeing an easing to shrinkflation as it was identified by the Biden administration?
Maybe. The problem I have with shrinkflation specifically is I'm not sure how to get good data on it because it does seem more anecdotal to me. We can get data on inflation, but shrinkflation is not the cause. It's a symptom of inflation. Shrinkflation is something that corporations do rather than raising prices. They cut the size of their product. No one likes it because it's basically a passive-aggressive version of inflation. It's irritating to consumers. So whether or not it's going up or down is kind of hard for me to know. 2 weeks ago, Trump brought up that the prepackaged dinner you can buy for Thanksgiving at Walmart has gone down in price. He neglected to mention that they'd cut out a quarter of the food in it, that they are actively practicing shrinkflation, probably because inflation has gone up, in part due to the tariffs that Trump has put in and the fact that we've deported a bunch of people from the labor force, and so that's not actually been good for the economy. But in terms of shrinkflation as a tactic for dealing with inflation, my guess is that it's getting somewhat better in that the supply chains have at least normalized and competition is once again working. So you go back to 2020, we have a situation where we have a ton of money flood into the economy through stimulus spending, through the COVID checks, through suspension of payments for student loans, and in some cases rent. So there was a ton of money. I believe it was like $5 trillion that we put into the economy, a huge amount of money that's going in. Inflation happens when there's too much money chasing too few goods. And then a year later, was it 2021 when the war in Ukraine happens? I think that's it. Maybe 2022. When the war in Ukraine happens, you suddenly have this incredible supply chain issue that happens on the tail end of this, where you have a ton of energy costs spiking by like maybe 400%. I don't remember the data off the top of my head, but energy became far more expensive, which meant that everything that is downriver from that is going to increase in cost. So you have way more money and no more goods, and you have a restriction in supply. You have an increase in demand and a restriction in supply. So what's going to happen? You're going to get inflation. Whether it was more on the side of monetary or it was more on the side of the supply chain, I don't really know. I think it's both. I think either one would have caused inflation, but having both happen simultaneously was a really good recipe to get the 10% inflation we had. The shrinkflation happened as a result of that. There was a chaotic period where you could do that because nobody else could actually undercut you. And we're out of that now, which means that you can compete with other companies. You can have coupons, you can have sales, you can lower your prices. So I would think that that's going to have an ameliorative effect on shrinkflation, if not the fact that consumers really just don't like it. But shrinkflation as a tactic, it's hard for me to judge like whether that's gone up by 8% or gone down by 2%, since it seems kind of anecdotal.
Because no one's counting all the chips in the bag, but maybe we should. Maybe we can.
Maybe we should.
Jen, are we still shrinking? Or are we growing like Bill Clinton inside Trump's mouth? Sorry for anybody listening to this with kids.
It's too funny, man. It's my favorite.
I think they dropped out about 20 minutes ago. They're good.
Yeah. I apologize, everybody. Anyway, go ahead.
So Andrew's right that this is so anecdotal that I wouldn't know how to measure it. But in my experience, I think it's Matt Stoller who coined the phrase "inshitification."
No, that's Cory Doctorow.
Who is it?
Cory Doctorow.
Oh, okay. Well, Matt uses it.
Yeah.
And I think people like that Matt Stoller writes about anti-monopoly issues in his amazing Substack. And so I think people like that who actually do track these things have found quantifiable evidence that this is a real thing that's happening. You know, you go and you buy a bag of chips and there aren't as many chips as there used to be. The price is either higher or exactly the same. So I've seen it in my real life. It pisses me off. I've always found Panera to be way too expensive for what you get, but I only came to it kind of after the enshittification. So this story doesn't particularly surprise me because those stores look pretty empty, and it's because it's the most expensive sandwiches that aren't even all that good. So I'm not shocked to finally see a backlash to this, but until I see more than one of these stories, I'm still not thinking that this is going to be a trend. I think it's just one desperate business that's like, hey guys, we fucked up. Sorry. They're doing it so publicly. I think the fact that they're doing it so publicly, I think also speaks to it not being a trend. Because I don't know of any business that gives you more for your money and doesn't scream about it, being like, hey, by the way, we're a better deal than we were before. I think if this was a trend, we'd hear about it from a lot more companies.
I also wonder to what extent that is actually them dealing with shrinkflation. This is me putting on tinfoil corporate hat. How much of that is them dealing with shrinkflation versus potentially trying to assure potential investors that they're on top of shit? So like, let's just say that the company's not doing well because it's not doing well. Yeah. A better narrative is we very cleverly engaged in shrinkflation back in the Biden administration because the whole economy was dealing with inflation. And that's what we did. And we're now going to earn back the trust of our patrons. That's a better narrative than we're just flagging because we don't have particularly good food and it's overpriced. That is a far more fundamental issue. So if I were them crafting a narrative, we're done with shrinkflation, we're going to earn customer trust back, is a better one than just customers don't like us.
I also think it sucks. I mean, it's a shitty restaurant. It's a bad deal from the jump.
Yeah, I've not been. It's very bready, as I recall. I'm not been.
And the bread's hard.
And the bread is hard. Yeah, it hurts your teeth.
Hard as bread, man. Like you got to have a soup to go with it. So now I'm at like $15 for some bullshit French onion nonsense that I got to dip my club sandwich in to even make it edible in the first place. The two things that are above it, Chipotle I go to all the time. I might go to Chipotle right after this one. Mm-hmm. Like Chipotle is a great restaurant. And Panda Express, look, it's not the healthiest in the world. I don't go there all the time, but I will fucking murder a Panda Express, like 2 entree plate with some lo mein. Are you kidding me? Jeez Louise. Like, because at the end of the day, is that really any better than the random ass Chinese place that I, get off Uber Eats? Absolutely not. Like they deliver what they have said that they would. I don't know who goes to Panera Bread. Is it people who like apples on salad?
I only ever went to Panera when I was in New York or Washington, D.C. and had to go from an event immediately to get food with people from the event. That was the only time I don't recall ever scheduling something at a Panera where I would go, hey, let's meet at Panera. It would be like I'm leaving sketch comedy and I don't have much time. It's across the street. Let's all just go get a sandwich. It was a compromised location from the get-go in my mind.
So I've gone twice. Yeah. And the first time I went, I was at a podcasting conference and I was hanging out with a bunch of people that were also on Weight Watchers. We were a bunch of Weight Watchers. And so we wanted to go somewhere where we could get something point friendly because we knew at night we were going to be eating like pegs. And so they chose Panera. And I was talking shit because I was like, it's all bread. And they were like, no, there's a really good black bean soup. And apparently you could get the big soup and it was like 2 points. And it was actually pretty good. But what pissed me off is it was so expensive. And then it came with the bread. So it's like half the food you're getting, we can't even eat because it hurts the whole purpose of having the 2-point soup. And then I went again, like kind of like you said, Andrew, because it was literally the only choice I had. And I felt ripped off both times. So I don't know who loves that place.
God, I don't know if I should tell this story.
You should do it.
You just said made his head explode like inside of Bill Clinton's mouth or whatever the thing was. Just go for it.
So I was once dating a girl and her parents had this estranged side of the family that, they didn't really talk to all that much, but I was going to meet the brother and his wife. And it was known that the wife was a little goofy. She's a little loopy. And she might have some like fixations on race and religion. And so I show up, and my girlfriend at the time is very, very clearly white. Everybody is very clearly white. And we sit down at a Panera Bread. This is why the Panera Bread lives in my head, rent free forever. And I'm munching on some hard ass bread. And this lady just goes fishing for what ethnicity and religion I am. And it's just, she's just like, where are you from? And I'm like, South Florida. And she's like, oh. Do you speak Spanish? It's like, no, I don't speak Spanish. Don't speak Spanish. Oh, okay. Yeah. What church do you go to? It's like, I don't really go to church. I don't really go to church. She's like, oh, if you were. And then she eventually just kind of stalls out. And at the time, I don't really realize what she's doing. I only put it together because she then eventually just settles in her head that I'm Jewish. And so she's like, well, I think the Jews are great. I think it's great that they all stick together. I wish we stuck together like the Jews did.
Wow. That's quite the Panera experience.
And I said, do you think I'm Jewish? And she's like, are you not? And I'm like, no, I'm not Jewish.
Because you're very funny.
And then I finally just kind of spilled the beans and told her my genealogy just to make it less awkward in the moment. But yeah, that's my number one review, my Yelp review of Panera Bread. Pointed racial conversations and very hard bread.
Justin, I've had similar things where people just make assumptions. So they'll say like, so you're here to buy land? And what country club are you in? And things like that, and it's always very hurtful. I wish I had a touch more ambiguity.
I actually, Ancestry.com upped they have their new model or whatever. And so like, I have some new 1% all around the globe. It's great.
Okay, my family, we did 23andMe a few years ago. Everybody in my nuclear family did it, and it'll send you, it'll say you've got a new relative. And when I first moved to Austin, I got an email that's like, you've got a relative in Texas. And I was like, holy shit, do I? And I looked, and it's like a cousin, maybe a second cousin, not super close, but close enough, right? And I contact this guy, and we're trying to work it out. And we figure out that my grandfather is his uncle. And I'm like, this is amazing. I have found a long lost member of our family. And I call my mom, and I'm like, we have family in Texas. And she goes, yeah, Bob Hawkins. And I was like, what? How did you not tell me that I've got a cousin down the street? You didn't want to tell me this? And then like a month later, she calls me and she's like, hey, are you sitting down? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, I've got some bad news. Great Aunt Edith passed away. And I was like, Grandpa's sister, Edith? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, who I have not seen since 1998. She's like, yeah, she just passed away. And I'm like, I just assumed she's been dead for the last, you've not mentioned her in 20 years. Like, yeah, my family's not good at keeping track of this stuff. It's weird.
My family's not good at telling me things because I had a cousin, and she's like in the older generation. I have a lot of steps of cousins. And so it's like a generation older than me. And my family, it's so big. But this one cousin was very active politically on Facebook, like of the MAGA realm. So I said to someone in my family
Facebook
recently,
American.
Oh yeah, and she was like so active, was like defriending members of the family, like super active. And then I said like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Like she's been real quiet lately. And my family member goes, yeah, because she died. I was like, oh, well, that explains it. No one told me.
I knew somebody in high school that was a very sweet girl. I always had, nice memories of her in high school, at least. You hear rumors, you follow on Facebook or whatever. But during the lockdown, she was very active. She was active as only a Florida mom could be active. And she's posting pictures. She was anti-mask. She was like posting pictures of like panties on her face of like, this is what they're making us do, blah, 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 blah. That was the last thing I remembered of her until she died. And it was a tragedy. It was like an accident as to how she died. But it's very odd in this world where you feel like you have kept some kind of relationship with it when really if I were to go to her funeral, the only thing I would say is, man, that panties on the face photo. Crazy. R.I.P. though to a real one. I'm sorry about your mom. And then I would like leave.
She sounds fun. She is actually.
She was very funny.
loss.
She was boisterous. R.I.P. R.I.P. to a real one.
You know what? So
Anyway.
I was just in England, right? And the Heaton surname is from England, and we are shit at reproducing. Like I'll be all over, and like whenever I go into a hotel or whatever, they ask me for my name. I say Heaton. Then as a joke, listeners, you can steal this. I'll go, if there's any other Heatons there, they probably owe me money. We all laugh. There's never any Heatons there. We're from this island. There's none of them. I went to Yorkshire. It's where we're from. I have a painful British Yorkshire face. I look like a fucking claymation character, as do all of the other people from that realm of the woods. And when I went there, I was like, hey, my family's from here. Do you know any Heatons? And everybody's like, oh, I met one. That's not a very good Yorkshire accent, but they're like, I met one once. There's just not we're really bad at reproducing. I don't know what we've been doing the last 1,000 years. Apparently not fucking enough.
Yeah.
Jerking off.
Yeah. J.O. and
Wankers. Yeah.
yeah. Spilling the seed.
Yeah.
Well, get on it.
Hey, I'm
Start breeding.
trying, man. Replacing birth control with Tic Tacs all over the place. Just trying to, trying to accident my way into the gene pool.
I like to call this portion of the program Evidence A. We're not
speaking
wrong,
of-
pod.
Hold on real quick. That's
Yeah.
a good segue. I did look up the document, and this actually isn't the document I was thinking about with, the Trump Epstein victims, but there's a document cloud filed in 2016, Jane Doe versus Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, where the victims told the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, that Donald Trump was raping people. So that's one of them. This actually wasn't the one I was thinking about.
In 2016.
The other one was worse, but yeah, September 30th, 2016, it's filed. And then it's actually quite short, but you can read through it. It's pretty gross. And I know there's at least two, because this isn't the one I had in mind. So
it would be 7 weeks before the election.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The Democrats probably would have had, a still hand pushing Oppo like that. We're not wrong pod at gmail.com, where you need to go to write the show. WNR High School writes, Heaton is the theater kid. I heard he made a musical. Jen is the jock, and Justin is the school paper. I mean, I did work at the school paper when I was in high school, so that would make sense.
I'm actually honored to be the jock. Thank you.
Yeah, look at you.
Into it.
About that weed ban, though, right? You talked a little about the hemp loophole being closed. What products will and will not be affected? Can you explain it to me like I'm stoned AF? Some of my friends are concerned that this will or even has already evolved into a full-blown weed ban. Others are saying that all the infused products, edibles, and drinks will go away. I'm especially interested in knowing how to find this info in the CR in order to, quote-unquote, bring receipts.
So it's a really good question, and I have very similar questions. I think I was way too loose with my words last week by being like, it's a weed ban. Like we don't know where those lines are yet, because there's marijuana and then there's hemp, and those seem to be different, but I don't actually know. And so I am going to read the full CR. It's 394 pages, so it's going to take me a few weeks. But sometime in December, I will put out an episode about this, and I am going to go down this rabbit hole and answer these exact questions. But I'm not there yet, because I don't think the industry quite understands this yet. So I'm hoping a few weeks from now I'll have more answers. But right now I don't have those answers for you.
Here is what my operating truth, and I don't even want to say what I know, because I have not done a lot of this other than following the congressional discussion around it. This would close what was known as the Massey loophole in the Farm Bill from 2001, I believe. It was essentially a way that you could take non-psychoactive hemp and produce it in a way, or add it together in a way that it did have psychoactive properties when you sold it. And so that is the reason why, for example, in Austin, there is weed at weed stores
Everywhere.
available all over the city, despite the fact that it's A, not technically marijuana, and B, it is not legal in this. Marijuana is not legal in the state of Texas, but THC, A, Delta 8, Delta 9, they are all available in the state of Texas. So that would essentially crush that industry. What I am aware of is that it would take place in a year from now. So nothing would take place until a year after the CR was signed, unless there is some other legislation that is put forth.
My understanding of how that worked was that the legislation was written where you could not grow or utilize hemp that had above X percent THC, which was pretty low. What you could do was grow a lot of that hemp and then distill that low grade hemp. It's kind of like saying like, you're only allowed to make beer, but you can distill the beer if you'd like. And so you ended up getting a situation where the distillation process, for lack of a better term, you could make it as strong as you wanted, as long as the incoming ingredients were below a certain threshold. And that's how that loophole occurred.
Now, in a weird way, the world we've lived in when it comes to Delta 8, Delta 9, and THCA is this bizarre libertarian paradise where there was no federal legislation, there was no age gating, there was no restrictions on it. And so that's where when you see the scare stories about it, and there are some real kind of like reefer madness, like kids are running into train tracks and stuff like that after they had it. This was largely because when there's no restrictions on it, anybody can do it. The businesses that we've seen around Austin have been, they don't sell under 18 because they know this is eventually going to be a thing that you could get in trouble for. And so they have made the decision to not do X, Y, and Z. There was a big fight in the Texas legislature about this, that the hemp companies won. They fought off. But now
I do think vetoed a bill, right? He was the surprising savior.
No, it passed both and didn't sign it. It was like a pocket veto, basically.
Yeah, but it still was Abbott that did it. We were like, what?
Yeah. I mean, and the question is, it's like, okay, so like, why is this the case? And it's really this unholy union between alcohol industry stuff and legal weed. Like the legal weed people are like, what are you talking about? Like, we got to jump through all these hoops. We spend millions of dollars in lobbyists so we could get a statewide framework bit by bit so we could sell this stuff legally. And then randomly you just say that you can buy stuff from a wholesaler and you can sell it legally in the United States. Like, that's ridiculous. It's stupid. So like they fought against this. Legal weeds fought against this. Alcohols fought against this. And now we are getting to a point where I don't think it's unreasonable to say that there should be a larger, more responsible conversation about it. But at the same time, is it fair for these companies that, created businesses on top of a legal product to now not be able to have a legal product? I don't know. I think the solution that makes everybody happy is that we just fucking federalize weed being legal and we create a federal framework for that.
Well, and like stop pretending that these substances are all that different, because it is true that the people that were in the marijuana industry, especially in California, that pioneered this industry. If you get something from a dispensary, a marijuana dispensary, they have that tracked from like where the plant was grown, and there's inspections and like all this stuff. So it's like when I have the options of having gummies from California or from Texas, I go California every time because I know that someone's paying attention to those. And I remember when I went to Texas where marijuana is illegal and someone like was telling me about the Delta 9, actually, Justin, it might've been you. And I was like, what the fuck is this stuff? Like, I don't understand. How is it possible that this is available in bars? And I've told stories on this very podcast of going to multiple bars, being served these drinks that had 10 milligrams in them. That's a lot. And these bartenders did not understand what that meant. And they were going to serve me as many as I ordered, where I was like, this is dangerous. Like, this isn't like having 3 beers. Like 3 of these, when these hit me when I'm on my way home, is incredibly dangerous. And so I do think regulating this is important in the same way we have already regulated marijuana. But this blanket, like I said, we still don't quite understand what's banned here. Like, will it affect their marijuana industry? Like, we don't know. There were no hearings about this. We don't actually have those answers. It was done very last minute. And so I do want to read the marijuana publications to see, are they celebrating? Are they concerned? Like, I don't know quite yet. But Justin, I think you're absolutely right. This is something that is now ubiquitous in every state in this country. We should just have rules that make sense instead of trying to prohibit one kind and then kind of legalize the other. It's the same shit. So why are we treating it so different? So I don't like what's in there, but I will get you the answers as soon as I can in December for like what exactly this means. And
Heaton thanks you as a blazer. Did the Dems cave on a shutdown was one of our topics last week. Of course, the Democrats believe they were winning. They have been demoralized in the way that Yuri Bezmenov described the KGB, which did and does support their own propaganda.
This is a Heaton emailer.
What did I do?
You would know who Yuri Bezmenov is.
I would, but actually I'm not super familiar with that particular name. But yes, I agree. That does sound like if it's somebody that hates communism and knows history, I love you.
It's probably
Thank you
yours.
for being one of my
it's somebody
supporters.
it's somebody that, you know, had their history boner write the phrase they got high on their own supply, to keep it in the drug metaphors. Why not spin better, right? So maybe I'm missing something, but why are Democrats online mad that the shutdown ended? They were never going to win. They were just hurting poor people, but this is an easy spin for them. Just spin it as, look, we were hoping to bring Republicans to the table to negotiate about the ACA, and we were counting on Republicans to be reasonable. But when we looked across the aisle and didn't see reasonable people, we saw monsters who were willing to let children starve. We did the right thing and opened the government to so the poorest among us could eat. We, quote unquote, gave in because you can't negotiate with monsters. I realize that's hyperbolic, but if you're going to spin hard.
I
should
think
hire
be
you.
$300,000 to become a high-end consultant for the Democratic Party. You just need to know the right people, the right cocktail parties. I'll make some inquiries for you.
Yeah, you're really good at this.
Mm-hmm. With the climate change movement, or is the climate change movement in decline, was our second topic. Capitalism, man, right? Cheaper, cleaner energy was always the winning message for environmentalists. Unfortunately, it's also incompatible with the obligatory anti-capitalist stance of this generation of activism. It's no coincidence that capitalism must be blamed for all evils: climate change, pollution, poverty, racism, sexism, ad nauseum. Just listen to the conjured language used by the new vanguard of useful idiots like late-stage capitalism, and you can see why Bill Gates might have reached his breaking point, when actually helping people becomes less important than blind adherence to failed ideologies. Smart people defect. Bill, be gone. And let me hold
it's another
commentary.
one where the people that don't agree with you are idiots.
Let me hold commentary because
people.
let me hold commentary. I'm going to read the opposite version of this. Capitalism, man, writes, Bill Gates sharing his opinion on what to do about climate change. I wonder if he has anything to gain from changing the Overton window and national policies. What was the name of the company he got his personal fortune from and still holds a ton of shares in? Does his company have any interest in environment degradation, possibly using his lobbying heft locally, nationally, and across dozens of countries so that partners can skate the sunk costs and externalities like power generation, water usage, and infrastructure construction for the benefit of the partnership? What point does popular will get supremacy over the holders of morbid wealth?
I think if Bill Gates is the money-grubbing strategist that you were describing, then he's very much an idiot at it, because he's given away about $60 billion of his own wealth at this point and plans to give away 99% of his own wealth, which will be about $200 billion more. He's also put together the Gates Giving Pledge, where other billionaires pledge to give at least 50% of their money away before they die. He's one spearheading it. So he's given away way more money than would have cost him personally through a lot of the regulatory things he might be mitigating against. So he might be wrong about this, but I'm disinclined to think it's just about money given how much he gives away.
And energy-wise, the form of energy that has been making people the most money in the last 25 years is fossil fuels. Like that's the money play. He's been investing in cleaner technologies because I think he actually does believe that climate change is a problem. I don't think that this is just some master plan to like take over the energy grid or some bullshit.
His sly supposition is that Microsoft's investment in OpenAI is driving him to weaken the Overton window on environmentalism so there can be a generational build out of data centers and electricity consumption to feed those data centers. And that's why he wants to, soften his stance for the money.
Again, though, like he needs to make more than the $60 billion he's given away for that to really make sense if this is all a conspiracy.
Yeah.
I used to think that was a really good idea, but then the closer you get to a lot of these NGOs that are going to get this money, I'm like, you want to know what? I'd rather he bury all of his wealth in a tomb with him. Like, fuck it. Just take it out of the fucking supply.
Yeah, I do dislike the idea that these billionaires can have just societally changing money and give it away to the things that they want to give it away to, when if we had taxes, we could have a better society for everyone and not just these cherry-picked groups that, Bill Gates likes and Warren Buffett likes. And I don't know where that money's going, but it's certainly not
spend his own
feeding.
money to make the world better. How dare he?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Maybe he's not making the world better. Like maybe having a handful of billionaires handing out tens of billions of dollars instead of having them pay taxes into healthcare systems and SNAP and infrastructure and things like that. Like maybe it's a better
they
use
also
of the
do
money.
That. We're not saying that he doesn't pay tax. We're not saying that he's a tax cheat.
There's been multiple economic studies that Bill Gates has kept about 2% of the overall economic growth that was unleashed by Microsoft. So the world is significantly wealthier for his contributions.
I'm not shitting on Bill Gates. Yeah. I'm shitting on the structure of allowing these people to collect that much money instead of it going into society, because our tax system is allowing this unbelievable accumulation of wealth at the top. So that's how Bill Gates and others like him, whether they are do-gooders or not, the fact is that their wealth ends up going to their pet projects, to their pet groups, their NGOs, their foundations, wherever they decide, as opposed to through taxes when we have crumbling infrastructure and we have real big societal problems. And the billionaires get to decide where the money goes instead of our government having it.
And since we're all thrilled with what our government does for our society,
I was about to say that's where I would be open to taxing them more. I believe in progressive taxation. I agree with the premise that in order to accumulate huge amounts of money, you need to rely on the state to protect your property rights and contracts and so on and so forth. So you have an obligation. I don't disagree with that. That being said, though, I want to fix how the money is spent before we just add money to a shitty system, which is, I think, where we are right now. Yeah. When I was in Sweden over the summer, I would talk to people. They have higher taxes there. And I would ask them, if we just increased our taxes, would we live in Sweden? And they were like, God, no. No, that's a horrible idea. Your system is shitty. If you increase the taxes, you would just have more money taken from taxes put into a shitty system. So I want to fix the system before we add input.
I want to fix the people in Congress who are determining where our money goes, because right now we have so many bad faith actors that I think that's the main problem.
Hear.
Model citizen writes, true science, including climate science, needs to stand up to possible criticisms. Because of that, it is best to approach any scientific science as skeptical until proven otherwise. It is a fallacy to appeal to experts, as others, myself included, in a variety of disciplines and institutions have said behind closed doors. A lot of academia, science included, has become an echo chamber, where friends are rewarded with papers in top journals, promotions, and diversity of thought is not always. I've seen this change significantly over time, with it ramped up during COVID when many scientists felt that they had to defend themselves and siloed like crazy. This analysis is not to demean climate science, but it is an overall caution that leads me and many others in academia to not accept everything at face value at least a more moderate form. This tends to be true of sciences that are model-driven, which is typically the case in climate science. As somebody who does research in math modeling, I can personally say that there is a lot we don't know that can dramatically impact results. I don't deny climate change, but I think that it leads to a lot of hyperbolic statements when we consider these two things.
Yeah, this is a very well-reasoned position on this. And it's a good point, too. There's an odd thing that goes on for most of us that aren't climate scientists, and I'm in that category of we can either do our own research and potentially buck against the system, or we just have to default on the words of experts. And generally, I'm in favor of people coming up with their own research. But I don't know. I don't know this stuff. I've never looked at complex climate modeling, and I don't have the mathematical abilities to critique it or understand it. It's really just a question of whether I trust the lab coats or not.
Well, and I think that trusting an individual expert could be problematic, but when you have a lot of them together, there's certain conclusions that, if most of them say a thing is seeming to be true in their research, I think that's when we can trust it. Like, we have to trust experts at some point because they're spending their whole careers learning about a thing, and we can't do that with every single topic. Well, it's like, I think I'm an expert in Congress. I've spent 13 years studying this shit. I think I'm better at it than other people. If you were to talk to me about climate science or, Joe and his solar engineering, like, I can't dance because I haven't studied it the way they have. So I have to rely on their expertise. So it's like shitting on experts, I don't think is helpful. But to just be like, well, this person's an expert, they're automatically true. Like, no, but when there's a consensus, I feel comfortable going like, okay, this is probably more true than not.
I'm in the same camp. In general, I am deferential to the scientific consensus on climate change. It's why I think climate change is a problem. But I agree that there's a lot of room for latitude and nuance within that. And I think that's what the listener is indicating, is that there are a variety of different models. They're not all going to be right. It's also like based on what my own little research is, it's possible to have surprisingly few actors operating in a field and have everybody going downriver from them. I doubt that is the case in climate science, given how many people are there. But for example, Jen, I know you listened to the nuclear episode I did a couple of years ago. Justin, I think you might have too. And I get into talking about nuclear winter and the projections from that. But it turns out that there's really only been about 6 people ever that have really done models on nuclear winter. Everybody else is keying off of those 6 people who were working together. And so if anything was wrong in that model, all subsequent models are wrong. So we don't really know. It could be that if we had a nuclear war, that we would have nuclear autumn and billions would perish. It could be significantly worse. Could turn out that it's not a huge deal if that one model's wrong, but all of the other models are predicated on that. And so it's easy. Like in the course of researching that episode, I would read all these different research reports talking about it, but they were all keying off of that one crucial bottleneck paper. And so I think that kind of thing can happen. And so having some degree of latitude and nuance, as the listener indicates, is a good place to be.
Yeah, you have to have the room for scientific theories to evolve.
Yeah. And pushback, yeah.
Truck writes, speaking to your segment on an electric vehicle, the Silverado EV was being scaled back because it was enormously expensive and at the top of the acceptable price range for a vehicle with such limited use. I actually work for the City of Austin Fleet Department, where we are buying as many EVs as we can, but we're having to put our own chargers in to support them. We're actually the first municipality in the country to have EV police cars. They definitely have their place, but until battery technology advances enough where you can charge up a vehicle within a few minutes like a gas car, they're still going to be relegated to only certain types of vehicles.
Yeah, it takes a long time for them to charge. That's real, and it's annoying.
But Charged Up writes, I'm shocked that no one has mentioned the massive leap in battery tech that Tesla has made. They created the first solid-state battery. They used to be referred to as supercapacitors, but the new name makes it easier for the average person to understand. This will literally change everything. This is only the first iteration, but we are looking at a theoretical 100% greater efficiency than the best lithium batteries and instantaneous charging. Graphene is the key material that will make this all possible. You can say all day long that solar panel and winds will solve anything, but anyone that's seriously looked at the math and engineering knows that that isn't true. I'm an engineer. Ask Germany how well switching to all solar and wind went. It's not like they're completely dependent on the Russians in the middle of a war that they supposedly are morally against. We need to prioritize the grid, but otherwise we're going to be looking at brown and black outs for the next couple years.
I mean, solar and wind work better with a prioritized grid, so it all goes together. I just want to defend our not discussing a thing, because sometimes we don't know about a thing. So don't be surprised when we don't talk about a thing. But also, even if I heard about this out in the wild, anytime I hear an Elon Musk company be like, we've just discovered this thing, and we're going to change the world. Like, Elon Musk has so many empty promises, things that he's promised that have just never come to fruition. He does most of his projects kind of half-assed. And when it comes to EVs, like, until I actually see it come out of an Elon Musk company, I don't believe it. So even this, like, I hope it's true, because, I love the EV cars. I would love to have, not have to wait 2 hours to get my 50 miles on a charge. I hope this is true, but I don't trust anything coming out of Tesla. And
I think that this is pretty, I appreciate your skepticism, Jen. And like we always should be when somebody's going to make a buck off of something by exaggerating. I think that this is pretty well
capitalists.
known with Tesla. Tesla, as I understand it, did revolutionize battery technology, and the just in my 13-foot camper, like I've got a couple of lithium batteries in there, and they're comparatively more expensive, go out quicker, take longer to charge, can't hold as much of a charge. What Tesla has in terms of their batteries is crazy. Like it really is a game changer, and it's good news. It's really, really good news for electric vehicles and for any kind of battery required technology, which would include if we increase the amount of energy coming in from solar and wind.
Well, they don't have that technology now because the goddamn Cybertruck in my building in Austin was taking that charger all night, every night. We all hated that guy. So get on it, Tesla. If it's real, do it now.
There's the difference between a slow charger and a mega charger, right? Or whatever it is. There's the trickle charge and there's like the supercharged one. So if they had a slow charger, that's a bottleneck issue in the building.
Well, I mean, it also just might be that the Cybertruck guy doesn't care about other people and doesn't move his car when it's
also
done.
Possible.
Like, that being said, there's a difference between the tech being in existence and it being ready enough to be deployed fleet-wide. Okay. I know that, I mean, a lot of the battery stuff that Tesla has, like you have like their power wall, and I think that might be what they're talking about when it comes to the supercapacitor. The one thing that I know, and this is, if this technology is similar just to the phrase solid state battery, solid state batteries, actually, no. I'm thinking about hard drives. Never mind. Maybe solid state battery is very, very stable. But you know, there are problems sometimes with the solid state hard drive, which is a much different thing. And excuse me for even comparing them if they're so different technologically, but they had the capacity to fail a little bit easier. And when they did fail, they were like irretrievable compared to other tech. So who knows? Maybe that is all useless.
On that note, though, to the point of grid and increasing electricity, like I think nuclear power is probably inevitable at this point, unless, like, I think that there's probably an AI bubble going on, but it's probably an AI bubble like the .com bubble was back in the 90s. That is to say that there's going to be a bunch of companies that fail, but the actual game-changing element is very real and is going to stay and is going to increase. So I would be surprised if the bubble pops so hard that all the AI data centers go away. I think there's going to be more and more of them. They're going to require more and more energy. The likelihood that we are going to go, well, we just won't have more energy flies in the face of all human energy consumption patterns. Whenever we lower the price of energy, which we've consistently done over the last 100 years, we don't cut back on energy. We just consume more energy everywhere. This happens everywhere, right? So I think with the increased amount of demand for AI data centers that's coming around, like you're going to see a lot of nuclear power happen because there's going to be this insatiable demand for it. That's why Microsoft bought 3 Mile Island a year ago. Like they see the writing on the wall. So I think you're going to see nuclear probably pop up in the next 20 years.
I just hope it's fusion and not fission.
That'd be great. It'd be terrific.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be any and everything that people can make that creates the amount of energy that they need, because we're going to have a tremendous need for it going forward. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On politics this week. Speaking of AI, we have Tom Merritt, who joins the show, and we talk a little bit about UK politics, but we also get into my supposition that I believe that AI will be a top 5 issue in at least one of our major parties, if not both, for the 2028 election. And I don't know exactly which side of it. I don't know exactly who's going to benefit from it, because I think everything is evolving, but you can see many politicians beginning to stake out their claims. We talk about that and more on the Politics Show, including a little bit about the whole Epstein stuff. Jen.
I have an episode coming out soon, possibly the same time as this episode, about what happened last month in Congress. It was October, so it's mainly what happened in the Senate because the House was MIA. But the Senate did some things that went completely under the radar because everyone was paying attention to this shutdown. So we talk about that. There's some cracks in the Republican wall around Trump, which I found encouraging. So yeah, and then a bunch of discouraging stuff because that is the time that we're in. So that'll be ready for you soon.
Heaton.
I have on Jeremiah Johnson, who is the fill-in host for me on this program back in the summer, friend of mine.
Oh, yeah, the guy who's more liberal than me.
In some ways. He's more of a Democrat than you, for sure. We're talking about a bill that I really hope passes through Congress. I don't think, according to Jeremiah, it's not likely to do it during this Congress, but maybe in the next Congress, which is the End Kidney Deaths Act now, or something to that effect. The way that it has been written is that there would be a significant tax break given to people who donate kidneys. So we have a huge deficit in kidneys in the United States. We don't have a sufficient amount of kidneys right now. There's like 100,000 people that are on dialysis. It's not fun. It's exhausting. It really lowers your quality of life. We also have a tremendous amount of deaths from kidney disease. My cousin died last year from this. And the amount of people that are donating their kidneys at present is not matching the demand for it. And the ability to get it from other sources is pretty minimal. If you die in a car wreck, they can't get your kidney. It's actually very, like when you sign up for organ donation, it's an extremely limited amount of people that can actually donate their organs. You pretty much have to be brain dead and in the hospital for that to work. They can't just find you in your house and take your organs because sepsis will set in. So the bill that's been passed would allow people to do this, and then you'd get, I think it's $10,000 in tax rebates per year for 5 years. And so I think what I like about this is now on my end, I think you own your own body. So if you wanted to sell your kidney, I have no problem with this. But I appreciate that it strikes many people. Perhaps one of my co-hosts is ghoulish to do so. And there are concerns that having some sort of market for organs would result in exploitation and so on and so forth. Now, I think right now what we need to do is dramatically expand the supply of kidneys because people are dying at this exact moment. There are people that are living with very low quality of life. Were this bill to pass, the interlocutor would be the federal government through the tax code rather than private actors that you would be paying directly. And it would probably dramatically increase the amount of people that are able to live their lives well. And so I hope it passes. I've got a website set up so that people, I'll go ahead and commit now. If the thing passes, I'll do it. And I'm hopeful that it comes through and we get a lot more kidneys for people.
All right. There we go. Well, until next time, for Andrew Heaton and Jen Briney, I'm Justin Robert Young saying, we're not wrong. That image of Trump on his knees is.
Can't wait to see it.
Dog and Pony Show audio.